So I'm not used to it. So do we have anybody from Virginia out there? So I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia, right? And I might say some bad things about Charlottesville, but I just need to set a norm. I'm from Charlottesville, and if you say something bad about Charlottesville, then we're gonna have to, fight outside. I'm just gonna say, So I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. And just to give you some explanation of what Charlottesville is like, Charlottesville is this kind of small, medium-sized, big-ish town in the middle of central Virginia. Charlottesville revolves completely around Thomas Jefferson and the University of Virginia. Thomas Jefferson is literally their god, their god. And so you can't say anything bad about Uncle TJ. Right? We don't talk about the whole Sally Hemings incident. That's Charlottesville. Charlottesville is the type of place where the Southern elites, not the ones who sent their sons to war, but the ones who paid instead, their word is law. That's where I'm from. Charlottesville is the type of place where the grass is green and the tea is sweet, and we have keggers in the summertime, leaf watching in the fall, skiing in the winter, Civil War reenactments in the spring. That's Charlottesville. Charlottesville made me. And when I say it made me, I don't mean it made me the way that a baker delicately makes flowers that he puts on a wedding cake. Charlottesville made me the way that a chemist takes rare metals and puts them inside a crucible and heats it to high temperatures. That's how I was made in Charlottesville. Charlottesville's the type of place where locked doors are rude, right? It's the type of place where your neighbor invites you over and you have beer and baseball in the yards and you play a little Pokemon. I don't know if anybody else remembers Pokemon. Pokemon in the yards. And meanwhile, there's a Confederate flag that we moved that. Anyway, that's Charlottesville. I grew up in a middle-class family and an upper-middle-class community. So for some of y'all, you might, what does that even mean? That means that we had enough money that I didn't need anything. We had enough money that I shouldn't have complained for anything. But I still felt guilty when I had to explain why I didn't have an in-ground pool. All right, so it's first world issues. That's where I grew up. This story takes place in middle school, and as we all know, middle school is probably the worst years of your entire life. Especially for an afro-wearing chubby. I was literally this weight in middle school with like 2 feet short. Which has nothing to do with my story, but it's still back there. Thick glass-wearing, dark-skinned, having little boy growing up in Charlottesville, Virginia. My mother happened to be a teacher at the school, which made things like 50 times worse, because what do you do when you see Miss Kennedy is a witch in the bathroom? I mean, who do you beat up? I don't know what to do. She actually wrote a referral from my little brother one time for poking her in the side. So, do not teach at your child's school. You will scar them for life. So Charlottesville's where I grew up. So it's 8th grade, and I'm lucky, right? 8th grade is not about school. We already know that. 8th grade is about friendships. It's about relationships. It's about finding your clique, finding your crew, finding the people who you can put your identity into. That's what 8th grade is all about. And me, the little short, overweight, dark-skinned, nappy-headed little boy, had found my group. Like, I did it. I achieved. I was there. I was comfortable. I wouldn't say I was happy, but I was comfortable. And in 8th grade, that's really all you can ask for. So we had recess, and I remember one day I was leaving the 8th grade wing and walking across the green lawn of the school building to go to the blacktop. Now in 8th grade, you know at that point that you don't play at recess, right? That's social suicide. What you do, and if it has to be perfected, what you do is you stand in a circle and you talk. You don't know what we were talking about, but that's what you do. If you didn't know that, then you could just forget about it. Just hang it up. So I remember it was time for recess, and I stepped out the door of the 8th grade wing, and I'm making my way across the front yard of the school building. And I see my friends gathered together on the blacktop. It's about maybe 6 or 7 of them gathered already. So I'm walking up and I'm approaching my friends. I see Nina standing there, tall, thin girl, black hair, used to have a crush on her. Next to Nina is Alex. Next to Alex is Caroline Allen. And I remember Caroline had on this Hollister sweatshirt, khaki pants, and some Ugg boots. It was fall time. And so, as I'm walking to the circle, I'm just thinking about, I don't know what I'm thinking about middle school stuff. I'm thinking about who I'm going to talk about, right? So I'm walking up to the circle, and I'm literally standing 3 feet out the circle. And all of a sudden, I hear Caroline Allen say, "And can you believe that nigger?" And I stopped. I was stuck. I was literally feet outside that circle, but metaphorically, I was really much further. I stood there stuck, and I couldn't move. I didn't hear any more of the conversation that was going on. All I heard were the voices in my head that just came crashing down like rocks in a rock slide. There were thoughts that were not new. There were thoughts that had been in the back of my head for years. Thoughts that I thought that I had put away and never had to deal with again. There were thoughts like, why am I so uncomfortable with myself? Thoughts like, why can't my hair just look like everybody else? Thoughts like, why can't my family just do the same things that their family do? Thoughts like, why do I feel uncomfortable around the other people at school who look just like me? Thoughts that I had not had to think about in years because I had found my crew. As I stood there, I realized that I was angry. But I wasn't angry at Caroline. I could care less about Caroline. I wasn't angry at what she had said. I don't know if she was talking, I don't care what she said or who she was talking about. I was pissed at myself. How could I let myself get to this point where I thought that I was comfortable and I was complacent? How could I let me get there? How could I let myself be so afraid of me? How could I let myself be so uncomfortable with myself? How could I let myself hate myself? At that moment, my crucible had been turned up so high that I had no choice but to change into something else. I had to change into something better. Every day since that moment in 8th grade, I've woke up loving myself a little bit more, being prouder of who I was. I went from dealing with my hair, dealing with my dark skin, to accepting my hair, accepting my dark skin, to a point today where I couldn't imagine waking up without it. You know, even when I thought about telling this story, I told myself, Brian, are you really going to say the N-word in a room full of white people on camera? But then I thought to myself, if I don't tell the story the way that it happened, and if I don't tell it the way that it hurt, then I'm not being true to my own definition of diversity. Because diversity is having the opportunity and the space to love yourself no matter what. That's what we've got to create. It's my job, it's our job to make sure that every single Afro-wearing, awkward, overweight, thick glass having, dark-skinned little black boy can love himself no matter what.